I'm really glad that you guys are here with me today. I can't wait to share the spiritual focus topic with you guys this month. It's all about how to approach difficult experiences in our life and how to have the best possible outcome for those experiences and those problems and those situations. Before we get started on that, I do want to share a few Almapura updates with you guys. Our monthly Zoom is going to be held on Thursday, November 17th at 6 p.m. So I really hope that you guys will join. I hope to see you there. I have a good idea for this month's discussion. And of course, we can still talk about your personal questions or any curiosities that you have that you want to bring out in the group or you want to have spirit answer or bring clarity to you for. But aside from that, I do like to have like a little topic that we can talk about that gets everybody engaged and kind of brings something new to our experience, maybe a new way of thinking about things. So this month, I thought we would do a little bit of something I like to call like a self-inquiry. And for this month's self-inquiry, I really want you to choose 3 positive words that describe you. And the 3 positive words that you choose to describe you are going to be for your inner Trinity. So, we have a human self, we have a spiritual self, we have a Holy Spirit self. We have 3 parts of ourself, but for this exercise, what I'd like you to try to do is choose one word of affirmation for your analytical self. And then give me a little reason why you chose that word and why you thought that word would describe you. For your emotional self, I would also like you to choose one word that describes the emotional self and a little bit of a reason why you chose that word to describe you. And then for your physical self, I want you to do the same thing. Choose one positive word that describes your physical self and give a little reason why you chose that word. Remember that the words should be affirming. They should be positive words. Our goal is to fulfill our solar plexus and to try to validate ourselves and to try to build that inner self-esteem and that inner relationship that we have between our body and soul. So if you're comfortable sharing that information with the group when we are on our Zoom, I think it would just be really great. And now that we've spent some time together, we're starting to get to know each other, and it's really been a really joyful time when you guys join. So if while we're in our session, you have any words of affirmation for anybody in the group for their analytical, emotional, or physical self, feel free to share that with them, because any way that we can build our solar plexus and come to a better love of ourself. Like, my whole goal for Almapura is to have people fall in love with themselves and to really develop the relationship that we have between our body and our soul. And I think this is a really great exercise that we can do. So once again, our self-inquiry is going to deal with our inner Trinity and choosing one word of affirmation that describes our analytical, our emotional, and our physical self, and then give a little reason why you chose those words. The other thing I wanted to mention is don't forget to take advantage of the members only discount, which is 25% off all services. This is going to go good through the end of the year. So take advantage of that and use the coupon code 25 just for and then the letter U at the checkout when you purchase your service. And yeah, hopefully you guys use that. Okay, so let's start off with talking about our spiritual focus topic for this month. I kind of titled it, What's the Problem? Because as I've been connecting with people, I've recognizing that people are really, really struggling, and people seem to be having a hard time right now. And it's not just me. It literally feels like it's everyone I'm talking to, whether it's through my sessions or through casual conversations. People just seem to be struggling. And I find myself there too, on a lot of days. And I've really been thinking about it and reflecting on it. And I know everybody's dealing with something. Some people are like having a difficult time financially. Some people are dealing with medical issues. Sometimes it's just everyday life feels really overwhelming. It's like if it's not one thing, it's another thing. If you pay this bill, another one is coming in the mail tomorrow anyway. If you heal this illness, you probably are struggling with some of the side effects of the medications that you're using to heal the illness. And it's everywhere, it's everyone. Everyone has problems. My mom used to say all the time, you know, Nicole, when it rains, it pours. And this year, I feel like that's been proven. Like she wasn't kidding. When it rains, it pours. And that's what I want to try to bring a balance or a calmness to this month. So, the way that we're going to do that, the way that we're going to try to make these experiences better is to break it down and to really try to focus on the experience that we're having and where it came from and how it came to be, because our problems literally fall into one of two categories. They fall into the category of, did this happen to me? Or did I create this? So there are two different categories that if you look at all the problems or the discrepancies in your life, you can put them into one of these two categories. Did this just happen to me? Or did I create this? I really believe over the years that I've been connecting with my own spirit, I have come to find in my own life that 30% of the time, the world and life and people kind of screw us over. Like 30% of the time, I would say that others are responsible for the problems that I have in my life. And I know I can't control that 30%. Nobody can control that 30% of the time that the world just does what they're going to do and it makes things happen to us. So those types of things would be somebody in your family passes away, or you're driving down the road and you get hit by another vehicle. Like those are things that you just can't control. So that's the 30%. We have to pray about that 30%. We have to have faith about that 30% because we cannot control it. We can't touch it. There's nothing we can do to change that because the universe all works in sync and everybody's connected to everybody. So 30%, you got to figure like my decision will affect your decision, will affect that person's decision, and that's how that all comes to be. So I consider those to be experiences that happen to us. I also believe that the other 70% of the time, we ourselves are responsible for the problems that we have in our life. These are the things that we create. And we can truly control 70% of the negative experiences in our life simply by making better choices. Because sometimes we make a choice, we react to an experience, and when we do that, it just creates another problem. So we have to think really before we react, because we are a reactionary society. Like things happen to us and then we just jump to a reaction. We don't really take the time beforehand to think about how to react, especially when situations kind of are just plopped in front of us or they take us by surprise a little bit. We don't really have the time to think about it, so we just tend to react. Now, sometimes the reaction itself causes us to like default to bad behaviors and we make bad choices, which inevitably end up causing another additional problem to the original problem. So let me give you an example of that. For example, I'm an emotional eater. So let's say that the 30% that the world does to me is that I lose my job today. So my reaction to losing my job, because I'm an emotional eater and I got upset that I lost my job, I'll gravitate toward eating more food. So if I do that to fix the problem or to heal that initial emotion of being upset, and I end up eating more, then I'm going to have an additional problem. So the original problem will be that I lost my job, and the new problem will be that now I'm overweight. So you see that without thinking of a solution, the solution that happened was me defaulting to a learned behavior or a behavior that isn't in my best interest, but that I'm used to doing. Another example is, let's say if I am a shopper. I am somebody who, at the onset of a situation or something difficult, I might just log online and shop and purchase things off Amazon, or I might go to the mall and I might buy a lot of stuff because my default behavior to difficult situations is to go shopping and spend too much money and go on a shopping spree because it gives me that momentary joyfulness. So because now I've maxed out my credit cards. So my original problem is I lost my job. My new problem is I have maxed out my credit cards. You see? See what I'm getting at? We all have a default reaction for when situations in our life are difficult or we're confronted with a problem. And we want to really pay attention to what our default responses are, because those default responses are traditionally very reactionary. And if you look back at your life and you look back at some of the problems that you have or some of the problems that you're currently having, you are going to see that that default reaction style creates additional problems because you didn't have a plan of how to address it. And that's the 70%. The 70% of our problems comes from us having a default reaction and no plan to difficult situation. To difficult situations. So what we want to do is we want to make a plan. We want to make a plan to respond. So before we have that reaction style kind of overtake us, we want to really think about what are the facts of this situation. What do you think of it? What's logical? Kind of keep the emotions out of it and think about what steps can I take to fix the problem from a logical perspective, only addressing the facts. Do not look at any emotion connected to it. So if the topic is, or if the situation is, oh my gosh, I lost my job, then I need a logical plan of how to react to that situation. So if I'm logical about it, maybe I'm going to call unemployment, or maybe I'm going to send out some emails and network with other people that I've worked with in the past to see if there's any jobs at their place. Maybe I'm going to update my resume because I'm not responding then to any emotion about losing my job. I'm just thinking about losing my job. What plan can I put into place to fix that situation? And I do that from a logical perspective because I do want to address the facts of the experience so that I can come up with a plan that's going to fix it. It's going to take care of it or take some of the sting, out of that experience. The next thing that we want to do is we want to make a plan for the emotional side of things. So I lost my job. Okay, well, what am I feeling about the situation now? This is where I can focus on the emotions, and I can focus on the emotions that were triggered due to the situation. So let's say that I lost my job, and that makes me feel abandoned. It makes me feel not good enough. It makes me feel fear. So what am I going to do? Because now there's 3 or 4 different emotions that get triggered in me because I lost my job. So now I need a separate plan that is going to address only the emotions. So if I feel like I'm not worthy, or I feel like I'm not good enough, or I feel alone or abandoned, then I need a different plan for each one of those emotions. And that might not have anything to do with losing my job. It's just, how do I heal or make myself feel better about that feeling of abandonment? Like, what do I do for that feeling? Do I hang out with my friends? Do I come home and talk to my kids? How do I alleviate that feeling of abandonment? And how do I alleviate that feeling of fear? Because fear really happened because I don't have a job now. So now I'm fearful of how I'm going to survive or how I'm going to pay my bills. So I really need to create a plan for the fear aspect of this situation. And you get what I'm saying, right? When a situation happens, the situation happens. That's fact. But it does trigger feelings inside of us. Those feelings inside of us that get triggered, we have a default way of reacting to those emotions. And what we want to do is we want to separate out those two things. We want to plan for the situation. I lost my job. What's the logical plan to get another one or to fix that situation? Then the other side of that, though, is when I lost my job, this rush of emotions came over me. And those rush of emotions made me react a certain way. Well, we don't want that to happen. We want to identify the emotion and we want to make a plan for each one of those emotions, understanding that maybe I'll feel better if I eat a little bit of ice cream and I have a heart-to-heart talk with somebody. Make a plan for your emotion. When you do this, what you'll find is that you don't overreact to a situation and you don't get stuck between your thoughts and your heart. It's easier to make a decision. It's easier to view everything kind of in an observer way, because when you split it apart into fact and emotion, you recognize there's two totally different sides of this experience. So keep that in mind and don't forget to make two separate plans, one plan for the logic and one plan for the emotions that are triggered. This is going to change your life, and I promise you it will, because I know that for a fact, because it literally changed my life. And that's why I want to share it with you guys, because it's nice not to feel like the experiences and the difficult things that are happening in your life are taking over you. You can kind of grasp a little bit more solid ground in those experiences. So that's our spiritual focus topic, and I hope it really causes you to take a look at life and take a look at some of the things that you might be going through and kind of break it down a little bit and see if you can't find some peace for those types of situations. I did create a worksheet for this month for this topic that you'll find, well, you'll be able to find it by clicking on the link below when you look at the Pure Soul member area. Some of the questions that I have in there, just to give you a little highlight, are what's the problem you're having? Did you create the problem, or did this problem happen to you? And then I ask if you could give an example of a problem that you might be experienced or have experienced in the past that you find that after this video you realize you actually created that problem for yourself, pulling it into that 70%. I also ask for an example of a problem that just happened to you, part of that 30% side. And if you could just talk a little bit about that in the journal aspect, or in the journal side. And then I also asked if in the workshop, I think I brought up if you could identify what your default reactions are to difficult situations, because if you identify them and you know what they are, you have more control over them than they have over you. I also bring up another question, that if you could pick any default reaction to difficult situations, what would it be? I did this for myself. I normally have default situations of like getting angry. I am like the fight back person. So I tried to think of, okay, that's my default reaction, but maybe I can change that default reaction and start to kind of biofeedback my own brain. So this way, maybe I don't have that default reaction, that I can change that default reaction to another one. in the event that I don't have time to think, I would rather my default reaction be more positive. I also identify in the worksheet, like, um, if you choose one of the things that one of the experiences that happened to you and your default reaction created another problem, how could you have done things differently? Like in retrospect, go back and look at that experience and see it, knowing this now, could you have done something differently that would have given you a different outcome? So basically, I just kind of go through what we talked about today in the video, and I listed some questions that we just went over for the worksheet. It's really a good journal. It's a good journal reflection. It's a good inquiry into yourself, and it really provides you with an in-depth knowledge of yourself that when you actually put it into words and you actually realize it, it no longer has control over you. And that's our goal, because that actually balances out and unites your spirit and body relationship. Thanks for joining today. Thanks for hanging in there and listening to the video. Don't forget to come up with your 3 words of affirmation for your inner Trinity so that we can talk about it when we meet at the Zoom. Everybody, happy Thanksgiving to you guys. But I think I'll see you before that. So thanks again for joining. See you soon.